is our first webinar, and we had some glitches. And so now I think we're all set to go. Sorry for the short delay. And welcome to all. I'm Marc Weiss here in Porto Alegre, Brazil. This is the beautiful view that we have where we live in the biggest park of the city. I'm here with one of the most important people in GUD, my wife Nancy Sedmak Weiss, who's managing things as we're going. And we have all our speakers. And so I want to thank you all for joining us. I know we have a lot of people from GUD around the world because I got lots of emails. So let me do like a wave. Welcome. I haven't seen a lot of you in a long time. I'm glad you're here. And then we also have some newcomers. And so let me just say briefly to welcome you that a Global Urban Development is an international NGO, nonprofit policy organization and professional network of more than 700 leaders and experts in 60 countries, including our speakers and many people that are on this call. We're in September, we're entering our 20th year of work. We have another decade to go to help achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Climate Agreement and the New Urban Agenda. We say our mission from the beginning was to enable all people everywhere to live and thrive in peace with each other and in peace with nature. Through this one big strategic policy and action framework we have that we call Metropolitan Economic Strategy, Sustainable Innovation, and Inclusive Prosperity. So we have been working from the very beginning with UN Habitat on best practices, on climate change, on many things. And we were among the founding partners of the World Urban Campaign 10 years ago that we've been very active in. And we have done two previous Urban Thinkers campuses. And actually one of our speakers, Luigi Fusco Gerard, was one of the creators of the Urban Thinkers campus idea. So in November 2017 and December 2019, just last December, we did Urban Thinkers campuses here in Porto Alegre. The first one that was focused all about ZISPOA, the Porto Alegre Sustainable Innovation Zone as a model. The second one was about the spread of ZISPOA to Santo Angelo, Zisan, Panama City, ACTA, to London, and so forth. And now this is not only our first online Urban Thinkers campus, it's the first webinar that GUD has done. So we're still learning how to use Zoom, and please forgive us if we run into some glitches. Okay, let me just check here. So today we're going to discuss both sustainable innovation zones and communities, but also some new initiatives that GUD has been engaged in, a kind of a comprehensive rethink of strategy in the face of the pandemic and post-COVID resilient recovery, a whole new initiative, a working group working on affordable, sustainable housing and communities using new technologies like 3D printing and recycled materials like concrete, and also an initiative that Luigi has launched in Europe, Circular Economy for Cultural Heritage, CLIC, that now GUD is beginning to work with and connect with what we're doing here in Porto Alegre and other places. So let me just now make a little, let me check the time here. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit now about the whole sustainable innovation zone idea that we've been working on now for 9 years. There was a period from 2007 to 2011 where GUD was taking our model and doing a kind of a more advanced version of sustainable economic development. And that we did in the US. We worked in in 2 cities, San Antonio and San Jose, in a county, Sarasota County, Florida, in 4 regions in Silicon Valley, metropolitan Portland, metropolitan Denver, and Southwest Florida, and 1 state, Delaware. And one of the most exciting things that came out of it came out of Portland, which is called eco districts. And I began to understand that, you know, doing bigger picture things, while it's vital, it's also difficult for the average person to get connected with it. You know, how do you, you know, if you're doing a plan for a whole region, what's your role in it? So it seemed to me that this neighborhood level focus would be more powerful as a way of getting people involved. And I also had my own experience when in doing the economic plan for Washington, D.C. in the 90s. There were, I think the most powerful part were neighborhood-based initiatives like the Southwest Waterfront, where I was actually the president of the local neighborhood group, but especially what was called NOMA, where we took this rail yard area with vacant land and abandoned buildings and did transit-oriented development, built a new train station and a hiking and biking trail. And it became not only the fastest growing, most dynamic area in the city and region, but the greenest, with green buildings and recycling and a whole bike infrastructure and so forth. So putting all that together, we thought, as we brought sustainable economic development to Latin America through the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas, we were committed in Brazil to doing sustainable innovation zones as a way to get people involved and to experience and contribute to positive change that was not only good for the environment, but good for the economy, that grew businesses, jobs, and incomes. So we worked some in Sao Paulo and Belo Horizonte, but eventually it brought us to Porto Alegre with support from the World Bank. We did this big statewide leapfrog economic strategy for Rio Grande do Sul to become the most sustainable and innovative place in Latin America by 2030. The centerpiece of that was to do sustainable innovation zones. And in October 2015, we started the work on the first one in Porto Alegre. So should we do the slide now? We're going to try to put up one image, see if it works. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So, okay. Now Nancy's testing it out, so we know you can see it. So this is just to give this was kind of like one overview slide to give you the idea. So you can see a couple things here. One is on the left, the state of Rio Grande do Sul and the leapfrog strategy. And on the right, you can see the map of Zispoa. We started actually in organizing in a very small area, just part of 2 neighborhoods. And it's expanded 4 times since then, and now encompass all are part of 10 neighborhoods. And you can see in the big green spot, that's the park that you're looking at in the picture behind me. The whole idea of sustainable innovation zones is to put together these 6 elements: innovation and technology, entrepreneurship and startups, sustainability and resource efficiency, creativity and collaboration, participatory community management, and business-friendly environment. So it's like an innovation ecosystem for sustainability. It's like an eco district for economic development. So the first thing that's important about sustainable innovation zones is it organizes and engages and involves lots of people. And that's what we did. We had courses, we had, seminars, we had festivals, we had green drinks, we had lots and lots and lots of activities that brought people together, entrepreneurs, activists, professors, students, everyone, to really get engaged So it's not something where you just have to vote and hope for good results or protest, hope for good results. We're taking action in our own hands and building a better future now. So, you know, for example, we built a lot of things like you can see the solar electric car charging station. There's the mayor and there's the ambassador from Sweden, or this solar tree that was a part of a big, the World Environment Day festival that we did. Sustainable parklet, a solar post, and now greening a building at the Federal University. We also helped generate lots of new startups, you know, like businesses that did recycling, of composting of food waste, that grew out of a community garden and composting center, bike sharing, electric bikes, and on and on and on. We've actually picked 5 big goals or objectives that we would become the most solar powered, the most energy efficient, the most renewable technology friendly, which we defined as circular economy, the most bike friendly and most digitally connected. And we've made progress on all except the last one. We have, so I talked about the citizen movement part of it. The second thing that's important is the economic development part of it. Is really, it's important in this challenge that we face to deal with climate change and sustainability. So for people to understand and personally experience that it doesn't cost you money to be greener, it saves you money. It doesn't hurt jobs, it grows jobs. It doesn't hurt businesses, it grows businesses. It raises income. So it's so that's the second thing. A third thing that was vital in terms of, and we'll be wrapping up shortly. A third thing that was vital in terms of Lisboa is the role of the universities. We had the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, where I am a visiting professor, Federal University of Health Sciences at Porto Alegre, and other colleges, universities, and we built this huge group called ZISPROF that provides a lot of leadership and enables teachers in the teaching that they're doing to involve the students in doing research and action projects that are a lot of fun, and people learn a lot and they contribute to the change. Some of the ZISPOA projects grew out of student work in classes. And now we are creating a new sustainable innovation graduate program at the Federal University. And as I mentioned, greening the campus. So another thing that is that when we did the Leapfrog strategy, people liked the idea, they didn't believe it was possible. Through ZISPOA, it became real, it became possible. So it's had a very big impact in the city and throughout the state, in people believing in themselves and what can be done. And the last point, two last points quickly. One is that we have now begun spreading the movement, as you hear about. We'll hear about from Panama and London, but we also have another zone here in the state in Santo Angelo. And we hope that through this call, it's the beginning of GUD, spreading sustainable innovation zones and communities around the world. And for a while when COVID hit, we thought, oh, this is going to be very difficult. But now we realize there's another reason to do it, which Banning will talk about, which is that in a sustainable innovation zone and community is a great way to experiment with how we change, how we live and work and play and survive and thrive in urban areas. And so in terms of the whole idea of resilient recovery, this is one of the ways to figure that out, to try things out and scale it up. Okay, so let me now introduce our next speaker, Habiba Al-Marashi, who is the chairperson of the Emirates Environmental Group and a major international sustainability leader in Dubai and UAE and Gulf region. and who has been my dear friend and a member of the GUD's board now for 16 years. So please, Habiba.
Thank you very much, Chris. Sorry, I'm saying thank you very much, Marc, for giving me this opportunity. And I'm very delighted to be sharing with you a simple presentation that I have prepared actually yesterday and today to say where we are coming from, why it is so important to look at the topic of providing affordable and sustainable accommodation for the masses. A global survey conducted by the UN in 2005, which is 15 years ago, it estimated that 100 million people are homeless. And of course, this number has changed now, particularly with COVID-19, to a new high. UN Habitat in 2015 said that 1.6 billion people lack adequate housing. Another study that came out of the UK from an organization called Crisis UK said that homeless people usually, the average homeless people die at the age of 44 only. Another UN study recently said that the global poverty would increase for the first time since 1990 because of the threat of COVID-19 and what it poses on achieving sustainable development goals and everything that is related to it by 2030. Which brings me to my second slide, and I would like to have, do I have the screen?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, you're all set.
Okay, so my second slide. Can I have the second slide, please? Okay, I can see, yes.
You can, yeah, you advance it. Perfect.
The second slide, which really came from the United Nations University, and it was done by several of the professors. And they say that because of the COVID-19, the poverty could rise to 1 billion people globally. That's no joke, really. And up to 400 million people have become the new poor, so the line is increasing. And these are people who are living on less than $1.9 per day. There's another 500 million people living on less than $3.2 per day. And this is, again, a poverty in another part of the world. And they say that this could expand to really 60%. So the cost of the crisis in lost income could reach to US dollars 500 million per day for the world's poorest people. And the intensity and severity of poverty are likely to be exacerbated dramatically. The estimate shows that the poverty will increase amongst even the middle income developing countries, and there will be a significant change in the distribution of the global poverty. So it is not only focused in third world countries, it is shifting now towards developing countries, and particularly South Asia and East Asia. And I would like to share with you here as well another research that has been conducted by authors Sabina Al-Kire and Jacob Dickinson and the rest of the team. You can see the names down there. And it shows you where the Arab region as well is being included in there, and it shows the numbers and everything in there. So this is all very disturbing facts that we are coming to see because of COVID-19. Where did I go? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is, you can see how the impact of COVID will have on the implementation of the different sustainable development goals. So this is not something that will be touching only one side of it. It means that it is going to be touching all the sustainable development goals. And it is very clear from here the impact in homelessness and in poverty, which will have, of course, a negative impact on the accomplishment of all the other SDGs. And it will have, as I mentioned, impact not only one, on every aspect of the SDGs. And again, it shows you the channels that is going to impact them and the areas that is going to be impacted. Outcomes of the SDG 2030 look dire without transformative action. And you can see it is affecting when you're talking about SDG 1 or SDG 2 or 4 or 5 or 8 or 13, and the list goes on. But you can mitigate this, as the Secretary General said, building back better, and how it is going to indicative of all the SDGs and what can be done and how we can, what should we need to do to reverse the environmental degradation or provide universal quality essential services or eradicate extreme deprivation across the spectrum. This is a study that was issued by the Dubai Statistics Center, and I narrow it to the construction industry. And this is where we were talking earlier, Marc mentioned about the innovation that we are looking at as building back better and talking about 3D and talking about using recyclable material in the building construction and the industry and so forth. So I would like to share with you the importance of the construction industry in the UAE and of course the GCC region. Currently, the UAE population stands at around 9.8, and they say that this will go up to 10 by end of 2021. The building construction industry was expected, of course, to record a compound annual growth rate of 8.8 to reach 248.7 billion by 2024. But will that be the case now with COVID-19 and the slowdown in the economy? That is the issue that needs, that is a question that poses itself. And the construction, in the residential construction, you see in the value terms increase. When you look at the commercial building construction, you can see how much again is expected to record, and in 2018 the figures of the contribution of the construction industry in the GDP of Dubai is very clear. In November 2017, the combined value of 11,755 actual and active construction projects in the UAE reported a good growth of US dollars 818 billion. So accounting for 33% of total value and 52% of all construction activity that is taking place in the GCC countries. So you can see the size of this industry in the UAE and in the regional level. Dubai attracts a lot of positive attention owing to the different types of numerous ongoing infrastructural projects to accommodate the needs of particularly the upcoming Expo, which was supposed to take place this year, but it has been postponed to 2021. The Expo team deemed it as a substantial boost for the region, is looked at as a very strong platform that will increase tourism, not only to the UAE, but to the region as well. And it is led by the UAE to kick off large-scale leisure projects such as new hotels, a lot of things that are coming up in Dubai that are very unique, which is Dubai South is called, Dubai Land. So these are all very, very much specifically targeting to build up for the Expo. And according to the latest data, the total value of major Expo-related construction projects alone reached to 42.5 billion. And this is projected to increase. In 2017, when Expo started, there were more than 3 billion worth of contracts that were awarded to different countries and to different industries. So it shows you the size. That's what I wanted to share with you, the size of this industry in this particular country and in this region. Another area that I wanted to touch upon was, okay, I wish I could, okay, is the concept of smart cities that the UAE government is very much keen on leading it, not only on the national and regional level, it wants to be a global player as well. By 2021, the UAE government plans on making Dubai the world's smartest city. So everything from smart transportation solutions to free pan-city high-speed Wi-Fi, it will be implemented to help enhance Dubai's reputation and investment capabilities. There are more than 1,000 government services that are now in the pipeline to be smart enabled. There are around 2,000 Wi-Fi hotspots that are being installed as we speak. A savings of more than 6 billion US dollars is expected from this new transformation initiatives. So the whole purpose of this is to attract global business, to attract tourism, and to attract workers. The heavy investment in infrastructure is hoped to eventually stimulate the private sector, create more great momentum for the entire market. And this is definitely a decisive step toward the ultimate goal of breaking the total dependency of the GCC region, particularly in the Middle East construction market from oil-based income. The construction sector in the UAE and GCC was poised to see good growth in 2020-2021 compared to 2019. But now with the economic slowdown because of the COVID and before that as well, is that going to happen? In 2019, a total of 73.1 billion US dollars worth of projects were completed in the UAE, an increase of 9% from the previous year. A total of 200 million US dollars worth of projects were completed in GCC in 2019, and this is a growth of 3% year-on-year growth that we are comparing here. So really, over the last few months, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, especially in the beginning of the year, announced a number of new mega gas discoveries which will require billions of dollars in investment and development of the fields.
Habiba, could you start to wrap up now, please?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. The GCC was the most attractive option for respondents. So there was a survey that was conducted, and the GCC came at the top of this survey, particularly from people who were involved from Asia and Europe, as well as from other GCC countries. A respondent felt that there was many opportunities in the UAE, and then followed by Saudi Arabia and the others. So my last slide, really, my last point is, you know, the impact of COVID-19 on this particular industry and particular sector, and why we need to come up with innovative solutions to ensure that this sector is still leading, but leading sustainably and leading more responsibly. Because it is, as I mentioned, one of the leading industries and a major contributor to the national economy. So the government has been very supportive of this. Even during the lockdown, this particular sector was not, did not be involved in the vital and in the, it was exempted. And there were special permissions that were giving to them to continue, and construction was moving on unabated. But there were a lot of strong measures that were put in place to ensure that it is done in a more sustainable manner, that it is more cost effective, that the support they get, the safety and health of the workers was taken into consideration, and what will happen after the relaxing of the regulations. So some businesses are very, very confident that with Dubai's proactive and resilient leadership, the economy will be able to beat this downturn, and we will see a lot of more innovative approaches and projects coming up that will take into consideration anything that is coming up in the world that is innovative, that can help ensure that this sector continues to take the leadership. Thank you, Marc. This is my point.
Thank you very much, Habiba. And now I wanted to call on Jose Barria, who is the coordinator of ACTA, the Panama City Sustainable Innovation Zone. He's also Chief Sustainability Officer for Pentagrama, a architecture and planning firm, and he's been a GUD fellow for the last 7 years and a great friend. Go ahead, Jose.
Hey, Marc. First of all, thank you all very much for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to speak here today. Thanks for everybody joining in, tuning in, and I hope you are excited. Well, I just want to start by thanking you, Dr. Weiss, for just trusting us and letting us, execute your vision in Latin America. I still remember back in 2014 when we started talking about sustainable cities back in the Sustainable Cities panel for the Green Building Council. So I just want to start off with that, sort of talking a little bit about our experience, where we're from, what we're doing right now, and just call to action for everybody out there listening to get them, as excited as we are. So going back to 2014, when we started talking about sustainable cities, I remember you were telling me a little bit about what you were doing, both back in your past up in the U.S. as well as in Europe, and then down in Porto Alegre. So whenever I heard about this, you do remember that I had been working on the sustainable sort of side of architecture for a couple of years by then. It was probably a year since I had started working with the Panama Green Building Council, right? So in that first year of professional experience in the sustainable side of the industry, I had started noticing certain patterns, certain things, certain drawbacks. And I remember when I first spoke to you about this, something immediately just popped up and really caught my attention. And it was sort of the idea that I knew already that there were only so many things that a guild in construction could do about sustainability in construction. And you were basically offering, the sort of model to fill in all these gaps that could be achieved by the community itself. And, that idea started to simmer, and some things started coming to mind. And then you were telling me about the Sustainable Innovation Zone. So immediately, when we started sort of doing the groundwork for this, I guess back in 2018 when I came back from school, things started really picking up. And I started, sort of recruiting all of my colleagues and friends, people who were really interested in sustainability. And things started picking up real quick. and getting like really excited. So once everything got a little more solid or more concrete, we figured out that it was a little bigger than we thought. It was going to be a little more challenging, but I, was really thankful that you had already done like, I don't know what, more than 3, 4 decades worth of research and basically all the groundwork for us. And it was so interesting that we could just like basically plug into this amazing system and just, run from there. So yeah, basically I want to say that we started about 2 years ago by now, and it has been an amazing run. So let's say we immediately started structuring everything by 4 axes, which probably makes sense for us more than other places, but I guess it's something that could be copy pasted in some way, shape, or form. And our 4 main axes are energy, urbanism, resources, and policy. And the cool thing about that is that basically we are trying to cater to all the different fronts where the industries are technically sort of like lacking here in Panama. And the good thing is that in all of them we have strategic partners where we can just like really just approach the right people in the right places at the right time and start making a difference. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we are doing right now on each of these axes. So for energy, for example, we are working on pushing a more sustainable energy grid guideline. We just sent an open letter to the Secretary of Energy with some suggestions that we ourselves have done together with some experts as well. And then on urbanism, for example, which is the one that I'm leading, we're working on promoting a law for tactical urbanism, which you, of course, Marc, have some sort of experience down there in Porto Alegre. What needs to be done for these kinds of things to actually take some momentum, and it's not easy at all, but it's something it's worth the fight. For the resources side, we're currently working on a carbon calculator. Basically, it started from the idea that we wanted to do a sort of urban reforesting project. And just working around the idea and just trying to figure out how to get it started. We figured out that most people, including ourselves, don't even know like what our carbon footprint is, let alone the people out there who are trying to engage with us. Nobody really has put a finger on what their footprint is. So in a way to like connect one with the other, we're working on a calculator to basically give you like an idea of what you're emitting and turn that into sort of like a fraction of what you should invest in a reforesting project to make it really worthwhile, and not saying like, okay, here's like $5, go plant trees. It's something that has to be proportional to what you're already doing, right? And on the policy side, which is more of like an umbrella term for like everything that we're doing, because it's basically the one promoting either law and all these different frameworks. We're just like all over the place, just promoting different. Mostly, I want to talk about transparency, which, as we have talked before, is a huge thing in Latin America, especially because most of the time we don't even know when lawmakers are just, basically selling our trees, selling our land, selling our seas, and stuff like that. So it's sort of a more robust and more transparent policy framework is what we're just yearning for. And I guess all these 4 points are just like like an overall thing. But I guess that my real message here is that this all started because we, as young entrepreneurs and professionals, have realized for a while that there are only so many things that the business side can do. There are only so many things that the guilds can do, and there are only so many things that individuals can do. And as sustainability is such a huge issue, it's not a one thing response, it's all of the above. So I guess our real role as a sustainable innovation zone is to grab people out there who don't really connect all these huge, high level goals and bring them down to their reality so that they can actually connect with these ideas. So for example, we could talk for hours about the sustainable development goals. We could talk for hours about the Paris Agreement. We could talk about hours for sustainable policies regarding big corporations. But none of these things really relate to the common person out there on the street who's basically figuring out how to make ends meet, right? So our real role here in a Latin American context is to bring down all these huge high-level ideas and connect them to to everyday people and have them realize that not only it really affects them, but that they can really do something about it in their everyday lives. So I guess that since we copied a lot of things from the Sustainable Innovation Zone in Porto Alegre, and we're doing our own thing here in Panama, our own Sustainable Innovation Zone based on those principles. I guess I just want to invite everybody out there, specifically third world countries, developing economies, to just really, go for it and just stop thinking about it and start doing something. And we're out there, so please feel free to message us, text us, look for us on social media. I will post in the comments how you can reach us, and just like reach out and feel free to do it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and let me now introduce Janine Campling, who is originally from South Africa, from Cape Town, but she came to Prague to become the first employee of global development all the way back in 2003. So we have a long and beautiful relationship. She now works in London for Generation Investment, which is chaired by Al Gore, which is investing billions of dollars into sustainable and green businesses and technologies. And she is the coordinator of the emerging London Sustainable Innovation Community. So go ahead, Janine.
Thanks very much, Marc, and I'm very excited to be here. And thanks very much, Jose, for what you said about your Sustainable Innovation Zone. I think firstly I need to point out that when you're trying to create a sustainable innovation community in an emerging economy, the approach is very different to what you would do, say, in the developed world. For instance, in the EU, environmental justice is one of the core focuses for the EU. Between 2021 and 2027, they are actually proposing to mobilize 100 to 150 billion euros of investment to actually address environmental justice. So, and also we have opportunities and access to funding on various different levels and areas of sustainability. So when I was initially approached to look at creating a sustainable innovation community within London, it was very apparent that what we needed to focus on was more of a citizen stakeholder engagement exercise. And, it's been 5 years, governments, businesses, academia, and agencies have been working on how they could drive the sustainability agenda. But still, we are far from where we want to be. And the London team feels the missing link in all the efforts brought thus far is the largest stakeholder, and that's is civil society. So we felt it was very important to approach the initiative by trying to build bridges and to really understand what society knows about sustainability and how green innovation could improve their lives affordably. We felt that if we did that exercise of understanding what the need and the ask was, we would be more responsive in our approach rather than prescriptive, and this would be more meaningful in, you know, connecting with the community. And so we really wanted to conduct a citizen engagement survey to better understand what the community felt would be a priority. And then we could plot out our strategy from there, because in any change management process, there's always the underlying question of what's in it for me. And so we felt that, you know, the survey would help us define what the benefits would be, being part of a sustainable innovation community, and that in itself would sort of promote participation. Sadly, the project was halted, you know, with the UK lockdown, and we had to rethink the way forward. But nonetheless, COVID, although it hampered our plans in respect of what we wanted to do within the community, it's provided at least two things worth noting. One, it has demonstrated that communities can empower themselves to do great things for themselves. And two, there is great appetite from ordinary citizens to get involved if they are inspired to do so. And, you know, it sort of urged us to look at ways of how we can engage remotely. And so we are using platforms such as Zoom, and we're looking at webcasts to reach people. And you know, we just feel that we need to ramp up connectivity with the people that we are trying to work with, and you know, who will form part of the sustainable innovation community. So, you know, and I must say that in creating a community like that, you know, there's an element of activism and advocacy that needs to take place to encourage that paradigm shift. We just thought that we will act as agents for change, and it's actually been very well received thus far. Going back to my first point about communities empowering themselves, if you look at the climate activist movement in London, there's deep, and you know, globally, but you know, for the first time in an unprecedented way, we've actually seen, you know, the protests locking down cities, and people really showing their dissatisfaction and how they perceive the government has been approaching sustainability. And I think this is due to, you know, that disconnect and being left in the dark. And I just want to make an analogy. For instance, we have the police force to protect our loved ones and our belongings, and yet we still lock our doors and we install additional security measures we deem fit. And if you saw someone in a restaurant leaving their handbag unattended to go to the restroom, the majority of us would consider that to be reckless and irresponsible. We have that deep sense of responsibility of the things that feel important to us, but when it comes to the environment and sustainability, society tends to feel far removed, and so, you know, they put the onus on governments. And so I think this is where advocacy and civil engagement plays a huge role to sort of change that perception, so that people could then understand that they are an integral part of society, and actually the change starts at home. It starts with us. Anyway, so I'm mindful of the time, but I thought I just wanted to put into context how we felt it was very important when you set up a sustainable innovation community, how important it is to actually focus on that engagement with the community. So moving on swiftly, the second most important stakeholder in a sustainable innovation community is not government, but it is business. And very interestingly, B-Lab UK, they conducted a UK public opinion poll in May of this year. And the findings were very encouraging and enlightening. So I'll just share a few stats with you. 72% of respondents felt that business within the UK should have a legal responsibility to the planet and people. And 76% of respondents felt that business has a responsibility to protect the natural environment. And following on from this, there is now a draft bill being put to the British Parliament requesting that the Companies Act be amended to legalize a triple bottom line approach and you know, giving accountability to businesses to protect the environment and citizens. You know, whether the outcome is successful or not, I think it's still a win irrespective, because it places a spotlight on the role which business should play within the community. So in terms of the two community stakeholders, I'll just summarize what the London team work has been centered around. In terms of community outreach and engagement, we are focusing on building an online network within the community that we want to work in, hosting webinars and educating on an array of topics. And, you know, for instance, if there is legislations and vehicles which add value, such as the neighborhood plan, and I think there was a question from Rick about, let me just have a look at the question, about landowners who want to profit from neighborhood improvements. So in the context of the UK, that's actually quite a valid question, because we have something called a neighborhood plan, where a community can actually vote to take control of the planning permission within their designated area. And they can then protect public and green spaces, protect small business, restrict overdevelopment, and in that way they take control. So I think that partially answers your question, Rick, but I really think it depends on the jurisdiction, the area, the country, legislation that's available to you. So that's one of the things that we really think is important to see where we can find that hook which will benefit the community. And then looking at businesses, well, you know, the majority of the world's wealth actually lies within business and not with governments. And so we have a thing called, well, if you haven't already heard of this, business improvement districts. Very much like neighborhood plans, businesses can vote in a body which will be funded via levy on business rates to carry out, you know, a services mandate, business mandate on behalf of that area. So it's very, traditionally, it's been very services centric and business focused, but in London, we have very wealthy areas and very affluent areas and large global organizations. So you have certain business improvement districts which actually earn more than they could spend on services. And some of them have been creative. They've created charities and then sort of taken the additional funding and put it back into community improvement projects. So the GUD London team are sort of looking at how a business improvement district could actually be redefined to suit, you know, the way business has evolved. You know, the priority of business now is sustainability leadership and how it can benefit the communities that, you know, it operates within. And so it would be quite innovative if we could look at creating a business improvement district that is centered around sustainable innovation. So that is something that's really exciting. And so watch this space. You know, we really think that that is the way to go to help catapult communities into the direction we should be heading.
Thank you, Janine.
Thank you, and that's all I have as an update.
That was great, thanks. So now I want to call on Luigi Fusco Gerard, professor at the University of Naples, world expert on the sustainability and economic development aspects of cultural heritage, who has led for GUD for the last 16 years our program on celebrating our urban heritage, and been a board member all that time. And he has a whole new exciting initiative to describe for you. Luigi, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. Thank you very much for this invitation. I will share this presentation with Antonia Gravagnuolo. First of all, I would like to tell you that I am very interested about the idea of sustainable innovation zone, because here in south of Italy, in Mezzogiorno, we have exactly 4 special economic zones through which we are trying to stimulate a new development strategy. So the characteristic of this special innovation zone are not only fiscal, but also linked to the innovative technologies, entrepreneurships, startups, and creativity. CLIC. The CLIC is the project that we are, myself and Antonia Gravagnuolo, we are coordinating, which is the central idea of CLIC. Okay, the central idea is to put the conservation, valorization of cultural heritage in a new perspective, in the perspective of the economic sustainable development characterized by this circular economy model. The circular economy model is the economy that imitate, that mimic nature. They mimic the nature economy. So the circular economy is the capacity to avoid all kind of waste, as happens in ecological economy, in natural economy, in the economy of nature, not only waste of water, not only avoiding waste of soil, waste of natural material, but also not only waste of man-made capitals, but also, and in particular, avoiding human capital waste. This is a new interpretation of the European Green Deal in social terms. This is the characteristic of CLIC. The idea is the capacity to transform a dead site into a living system. You see, this is the diagram that we have proposed, in which we can identify the 3 fundamental principles of the CLIC research project. The first principle is the autopoietic, self-regenerative principle of capacity. The capacity to produce and to reproduce continuously the different form of resource that the system requires. The second principle is the generative capacity that is linked to the capacity to produce positive in the context, and some of these are recombined also in the original system, autopoietic system. And the third principle is the symbiotic capacity, the capacity to improve a reciprocal change, a reciprocal relationship with the context. So in this way, we interpreted the notion of smart development or smart city development that is not only linked to the technological innovation, but it is linked to the capacity to valorize all kinds of capitals, stressing the notion of human capital, because as you know, in Europe we have, but also in every other regions of the world, we have an unemployment that is increasing year by year. This means that this strategy of CLIC, this idea of CLIC, in some sense has the capacity to anticipate the post-COVID actions. Which is the post-COVID action? The capacity here in the European Union to reshape in social inclusive dimension, in a human dimension, the ecological, environmental Green Deal. So this means to stress the capacity to produce new employment, interpreting the recover the valorization of the cultural ages in terms of the production of new hubs of innovation, of entrepreneurship, of cultural and social integration. In conclusion, before giving the floor to Antonia, I think that the essence of CLIC project is in its capacity to be a tool for a human-centered new development approach, not only to the ecological or environmental centered approach, but also to human-centered approach through the identification of new hybrid financing tools and new business models for promoting a human flourishing new perspective. Antonia, can you integrate, please, this brief presentation more in depth? Thank you very much for your attention for the moment. Thank you.
Thank
Antonia,
you.
hear me? Antonia? Antonia? Yes. Ah, okay, very well, very well. Please.
Okay. The magic of Zoom, right?
Thank you for this invitation today. I would add just a few words to what Luigi Fusco Gerard has already very clearly expressed about the CLIC project.
Not very clearly, because my English is a bad English, but I tried to. But, yes, excuse me.
At least for me.
Okay.
I would just show a few slides more, so you know now that this CLIC project is European Horizon 2020 research project funded by the European Commission. It's about circular models, leveraging investments in cultural heritage adaptive reuse. So it's focused on cultural heritage adaptive reuse as a way to achieve a circular economy also in cities and regions. So just to complement what Luigi has already expressed, we understand cultural heritage adaptive reuse as a key strategy for a circular city, thinking about the reuse of resources in a circular economy approach, which are all kinds of resources, material, so tangible resources, including materials or energy, water, whatever kind of resources, but also intangible, such as human skills, capacities, people. So everything is included in this circular but also human-centered approach that Luigi was explaining. So the project, I go back to some slides. The project has several objectives that start with an analysis of best practices in Europe and beyond. So you can have a look at the project website, that is clicproject.eu. in which you find also the link to the CLIC platform, which includes more than 100 cases of adaptive reuse of cultural heritage and also cultural landscape. So we have collected the different practices and also started to develop an evaluation framework, including the assessment of social, economic, and environmental impacts, and also cultural impacts, of course, on the cultural heritage, but also cultural impacts, including impacts on the society, on the local community. So it's an evaluation framework included in the objective 2 of the project that is really multidimensional and based on criteria and indicators that are qualitative and quantitative. So we are trying to develop the framework and also collect all the data to support some hypotheses. First data are already published in the platform of the CLIC project. That is also clicplatform.eu, you can check. And then many other objectives are included in the project that is very complex and articulated. Objective 3 is about developing policy relevant guidelines to support public institutions, but also private businesses, as it was said before. Communities and private organizations are key to bring on, to develop the territories and also to achieve the sustainable development goals and to make cities more competitive and also more sustainable and livable. So we are also working on the governance aspects together with our partners. I will show the partnership, which is very large and includes academic and private practice partners. We're working on analyzing first the financing and business models of the most interesting practices, most interesting projects to develop hybrid circular financing and business models for supporting different kinds of organizations that can take care and renew, readapt cultural heritage in cities and regions, especially for cultural heritage that is not the huge UNESCO World Heritage Site, but small places, minor heritage cultural landscapes that are not under the recognition of international organizations and that can receive, of course, less funding from the public institutions, from the public authorities. So we are working.
Antonia, could you please wrap up now, please? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, okay. So you see many objectives are there. We are also, of course, contributing to build an international cooperation network together with ICOMOS, UN Habitat, as today we are very happy to participate here, and contributing in the 4 pilot areas of the CLIC project to create also new jobs and new opportunities for communities and innovators that want to test themselves in projects of adaptive reuse. So our partnerships include, of course, different organizations in Europe, and especially the 4 pilot areas are located in Sweden, Västra Gotland region, the city of Rijeka in Croatia, the city of Salerno in southern Italy, nearby Naples, and there is also a cultural foundation, Pakhuis de Zwijger, that is located in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. So different cases, different pilot areas with different needs and also scales and challenges.
Thank you.
So that's all. So thank you very much.
Yes, thanks. And of course, now GUD will be a partner too. We're delighted to
Yes.
both your leadership. Okay, so because and I'm so sorry, but we're running out of time. You know, UN Habitat said only 90 minutes, and it goes fast. So let me do this real quickly before I call on Banning to kind of give the big picture and put it all in perspective. I just want to say two things before we run out of time. One is, I don't know if we're going to be able to get to questions, but you can send an email to me, Marc Weiss at globalurban.org. I'll put it in the chat, and I'll forward it to whoever you want to get your question answered from. And that's number one. And number two, we really, really, really want your help. We want your active engagement, involvement, and help in all of these projects that are ongoing that you heard about today, as well as creating new things to spread the movement to the cities and countries where you are. So please let us know about that. Contact me about that. And with that, I want to introduce Banning Garrett, who I kept talking about how long I know everyone. When Banning and I, we've been friends for 50 years. So I think that beats the record. And he is one of the world's experts on strategic foresight, looking into the future. In addition to being a senior fellow and board member of GUD, he's a senior fellow of the Global Federation of Competitiveness Councils and on the faculty at Singularity University. So Banning, please.
Thank you, Marc. I'm really pleased to be part of this and to hear all these amazing projects and ideas going on. And I thought what I would do is try to give a bigger sort of world historical moment picture of where we're at, because I think that this is an absolutely unprecedented period in history. We have a combination of the 1918 flu, the 1932 depression, and the 1968 civil rights movement for the United States, but which is, I think, in having an impact globally. So we've never experienced this. And on top of it, this is probably the first global crisis in history where virtually every person on the planet is being affected by this at the same time. This has never happened. Even World War II didn't affect everybody, or the global financial meltdown, or the depression. There are plenty of people in different parts of the world where basically not affected, but this one is affecting everybody and putting everyone under stress. So this is a really, it's hard to even grasp how critical this is in terms of the world history. We will look back on this period as far more important than 9/11, because 9/11 was this problem. We had actions against the United States, and then we went off and fought some wars, and President Bush told everybody to keep shopping and keep on with your lives. Well, this is affecting everybody, and the United States is sort of doing the textbook case of how to do everything wrong to deal with this, and exacerbating certainly the crisis in the United States with nearly 150,000 deaths and I think over 4 million cases and no end in sight. But there's no end in sight globally. And I want to stress that we're a long way from any vaccine, and even if we have it, getting it to 7.8 billion people and really creating immunity, it's not even clear that'll ever happen. So we may be living with this virus for a very long time. So it's had a very big impact on global economy, is in really much more dangerous situation than our rising stock market would, which is completely at odds with the rest of the real economy would indicate. So we're really under very huge problem. We're going to have, maybe I should share this screen here, here's where things are changing. Just taking a look at that, because I've been looking at long-term global trends, and I realized in March that you have to think of a new starting point for where all this, if not ends, at least where it positions the world over the next 2 or 3 years. That we're going to have this protracted, horrible economic crisis, unemployment. We have at least 17%, maybe 20% unemployed in the United States, but this is global. And Habiba pointed to the $500 million a day in lost income for poor people. I mean, this is a huge price crisis with a massive debt. We've already spent globally something like $11.5 trillion in response to this. So the burdens on debt on cities, since that's our focus, are going to be incredible. we're going to have to start from a very different point than we would have thought about this a year ago. And I don't think we really need to consider that. Now, we're showing and globally the reversal of the elimination of poverty, but I would say in the United States is a poster child for how we're exacerbating inequality. The rich are getting richer off of this, and everybody else is getting poorer or facing crises and loss of jobs and loss of health care and all that. So we're really starting, as we look forward in terms of GUD's purposes, in terms of what we're doing, to a very different environment than we had before. Personally, I would say that the next 6 months are absolutely critical to world history. What happens in the United States? Do we get rid of the monster in the White House who is pursuing fascist processes and would like to be an authoritarian leader who's damaging this country and the world? Or will we have a new regime that'll attempt to kind of turn the clock back on terms of American involvement in multilateralism and leadership on climate change and the really big issues facing us? Or will it be a much worse situation for the world as well as the United States? So what happens in the next 6 months is really critical. And I'm optimistic here that we'll have President Biden, and that could help reverse policies in this country and move forward, but then take advantage of the opportunities, which I know we're running out of time here, Marc, but I think there are plenty of opportunities to go in a different direction, and certainly we've seen, and more sustainable. And we've certainly seen this in terms of everything, telemedicine, teleconferencing, telecommuting. It's all changing the world in ways that are going to be long-term, not just go back to what business as usual is. We're going to face all kinds of questions about greening the built environment. And I would say that the real interesting point here is, how does this affect our dealing with climate change and sustainability and avoiding the next great mass extinction that's on the environmental train right now as the world is going? How do we deal with this? Can we turn this into a real opportunity for green building, green mobility service and green services, strengthening public health, a new social compact with the people? And I think what Janine was talking about with, going to really engagement, civic engagement, is really critical at this time. We see not only in this country, but elsewhere, rising civil engagement for the United States. It's over Black Lives Matter and really social injustice in this country and growing inequality for everybody, but certainly racism being this persistent structural problem the United States needs to be addressed. But can we address these things with climate justice, as people are calling it now, with really rethinking our cities, where we're going, and what's possible? And I would add here that one of the encouraging things of this global crisis everybody's involved in, that everybody's had to see that their individual actions, personal actions, as well as their community, their state, their national government, was affect everybody else. And that I would not say we're all in this together, because the rich in the United States have been able to protect themselves, cordon themselves off. They're not facing economic crisis, job losses, lack of health insurance, health care, like so many, the vast majority of Americans. But everybody can get sick from this. Everybody faces this global crisis. Can we turn this into a new awareness that people can actually act together on climate change and environmental sustainability? Can what Janine is doing in London and Jose and Panama, and of course Marc and Nancy and Porto Alegre and Antonia and Luigi doing, is there going to be mobilize a new civic spirit that recognizes more than before that we're all in this, we're all affected by what happens here, and we have agency to try to really take it, I don't want to say advantage, to build on what has been learned from this crisis, and engagement of people, that everybody has to act to protect themselves and protect the others. That my wearing a mask is to protect you from getting sick, not just me. And that if you don't wear a mask to protect me, that I'm put at risk, that we're all affected by this kind of a crisis. Well, can we take that to see that we're affected by the really big one, the looming and already here climate crisis and the need to build more, to do mitigation, adaptation, and resilience in how we do cities and how we do our built environment. This is a huge opportunity, I think, to really build on what people have learned and what they've done and experienced in the last 4 months, 5 months, and say, well, now maybe we have agency to really transform our societies, to mitigate the dangers that we face ahead and adapt and be resilient in the face of them. And in cities is where, where the real crisis is going to hit. And everything from water and food and certainly extreme weather events, literal cities along the coastlines are all going to be facing sea level rise and extreme weather events that will lead to flooding and destruction. We're going to face massive numbers of climate refugees. We have a huge number of problems that we're going to face going ahead that we can face, but maybe we can face them with new and innovative responses, more community building, these sustainable innovation communities and countries. So that's, here's some of the, what I see as an alternative trajectory we can build on going forward. And I know we have to end this because here's just, and this is something I did for a conference that was canceled because of COVID. But if you want to look at what to 2045, what the basis of a more prosperous and democratic and sustainable transformation might look like, what is the focus? And the one last point I'll emphasize here is that, in my view, the more we can move to production of energy, food, and products closer to where they're consumed, would be a much more sustainable world and really reduce climate impact, of course, of what we do. But if we can move to certainly sustainable, renewable energy, you get off of you never pay for energy again. You just pay for the equipment to harness the sun and the wind, et cetera. And you're not exporting your dollars from your community to Saudi Arabia or Texas. And then if we can do more production of food locally, and including urban, peri-urban and rural regions around cities, but it really advance and move towards vertical farms, printed meats and plant-based meats, et cetera, that are much more, much friendlier in terms of their environmental impact, but maybe much more productive and efficient systems. And then with 3D printing, not only housing, which I think is a huge step forward that we've talked about, Habiba talked about, and we're working on a GUD project, but also where other goods. And if you think of, eventually maybe we have Amazon type warehouses full of machines rather than products, and that you build things on demand for consumption locally, and you use far fewer resources. You're not moving stuff around the world. You're moving files and ideas, information, but not the physical goods. This would have another kind of built environment of cities and communities and countries that are far more sustainable and resilient in the long run and have much smaller impact on the environment. Negative impact. So anyway, there's towards, of course, a circular economy, as Luigi's talking about in Antonia. So in any case, these are some of my thoughts on this, and I think there's a lot of responsibility to take us to a new level in how we move forward. But we're going to face extremely difficult conditions already, and in the immediate future with the debt and economic crises and social unrest. It's going to be a very challenging time forward. So maybe with that, Marc, I should finally shut up so you can get close to ending this in 90 minutes.
Well, thanks, Banning. And actually, I'm just gonna, if it's okay with the panelists, and by the way, thank you and Habiba and Jose and Janine and Luigi and Antonia for doing an awesome job. So that's the first thing I want to get across. But I think maybe if the participants don't mind, if they're not racing off to another meeting or something, maybe we can go a little bit longer just to kind of give people a chance to wrap up some final thoughts or address some of the questions. So does any of the panelists want to add a bit more, say a bit more, or are we okay? Are there any questions in the Q&A that people want to respond to now? Or?
Yes, there was a question, Marc, from asking about what is Dubai Land.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so Dubai Land is one of the most innovative and ambitious entertainment plans ever rolled out on the global scene. And it is one of the attractions that Dubai was working on to increase tourism and innovation in there. But of course, it was hit hard. It was rolled out in 2003, and it reached a halt in 2008 because of the economic slowdown. But in 2013, it was again restarted. So there's a lot of things in the very innovative and entertaining platform for the world community. Legoland and all these kind of things. So I think again this is a platform that can be looked at, as Benning mentioned, that 3D should not just be into the construction, it can be in everything. So it can enter into the entertainment world big time if the right innovation is there in place.
Thank you. And actually tomorrow we have the meeting, the monthly meeting of the GUD Housing Working Group that Habiba and Banning and others are leading. So we expect that there's going to be some real progress on the 3D affordable sustainable housing. Any other questions anyone else wanted to respond to? Any final thoughts? Anybody wanted to share something that you wanted to say, didn't get a chance? Yeah. All right, well then let's do this. Let's take our photo of, let's get all our panel together and take a screenshot. Remember this occasion. This is the first webinar, but not the last. I think we're, judging from all the comments of the participants, looks like was a success, and we'll do more of them.
Luigi has to put his head up so we can see his whole head. There he is. All right. And everybody needs to work on their lighting so we have light in front of you and we can see each other so well.
Okay. All right, give us a moment here so we can figure out how to take this photo. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Lovely. So again, thanks to all the panelists who were awesome. And thanks to, we had at the peak, we had nearly 60 people listening, and we're very proud of that. And so please send your feedback. Well, like I said, we'll have a recording. We'll have, we can share, everybody that did PowerPoint, send them to me, and we can share them with folks that want them. And let us know if you want us to do another one. We can. Including another Urban Thinkers campus. There'll be a new round starting, I think, in September. And with that, everybody please be safe, be healthy, and be well. And it's a great pleasure to be connected with all of you. Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Marc. Thank you.
See you tomorrow. Thanks.
See you, inshallah.
Thank you very much, Marc, again. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Luigi.